Welcome to the Ella Opa Travel Podcast, hosted by Melissa Fundas, Fotios Stamos, and Ari Kalos. Learning all the finer details of traveling to Greece is a true art form, and we are here to share our knowledge with all of you. Let's begin our journey.
Welcome to another episode of the Ella Opa Travel Podcast, where we're talking about travel with people who travel well, more specifically about Greece, because we have really good taste. That's all. I am here with my co-hosts, Ari and Foti. Guys, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm still thinking about what we were talking about last week. So since I talked to you last week where we were talking about like that package mass tourism version of Greece that people are getting, namely that Athens, Mykonos, Santorini itinerary, which is not so hot. I want to hear from you guys. I was thinking about this. You know, you guys have been to Greece so many times, but you're still going, like, you're not going to run out of new places to visit. Like, we know that. So when you go, how are you deciding on new to you places? Like, if you're like, I've never been here, I've never been there, what is kind of fueling that decision? How do you guys decide?
That's a tricky question. I'm gonna give it to Foti because I am just told where we're going, and then I kind of just follow. So, Foti, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pass the ball to me real quickly. So that's, as Ari says, tricky, but also a question that comes up often when we get to Greece. Right off the bat, what triggers our interest is basically someone that's recommending a place that they've already been to, that we've never been to, and it's their enthusiasm and their body language when they're talking to you about how much of a great time they've had. Or the other way that I would say that I've gone to places to discover islands or locations I've never been to is, believe it or not, when I'm looking at a schedule of the ferry boat routes, and there's some place that's on the routes that I've never heard of or I've never been to, and then that sparks curiosity, and I'll do a little bit of more of a Google search about it.
Right. So you're not just winging it because your home base is Monemvasia, right?
Right.
So you're not sitting there thinking like, you know what? I haven't been to Halkida Key in a while, like it just doesn't make sense.
Correct.
And whether you know it or not, like you have a parameter in place. You look at what ferries are available to you, and that's your parameter. You're not, like I said, like you're not going from Monemvasia all the way up to Halkida Key, or like even entertaining that as an idea because it's one of your, non-negotiables. Like we're in this space, we have access to this ferry. So even though it kind of might feel like a choice or a freedom, you actually are working within a parameter. And that's, what I was curious about, and what I want to get into today is this idea of, quote unquote, winging it. When people say, oh, like, we don't know what we're going to do, like, we're just going to wing it. And like, as soon as I hear that, I'm just like, okay, because what I hear is this kind of protectionism mechanism for the ego. Because if you're winging it, like if you're not like trying to make a plan, like if it gets messed up, you can say, oh, like we didn't know what we were doing, like we were winging it, or we didn't know, or we came here because of this. And like on the flip side, if they had actually like tried and the trip still gets messed up, then their ego is like, oh no, we tried and we messed up. So this whole like winging it idea, it has some like perfectionism undertones.
And to your point, Melissa, I'm sure we've said to this, well, how, let's just wing it. How bad can it get? Oh, it can get really bad. I've been in situations where, yes, totally.
It has. Ari, do you have any winging it stories for us? Back in your youth.
Well, yeah, there were times where we were winging it, but I think the difference in my situation is that up until a certain point, going to Greece, every summer, every other summer, we had like a house there. We had like a base. Mm-hmm. So when you could go and drop all your bags off and sit on the couch and talk to your cousins or your friends from Greece, and you could kind of talk about stuff, that kind of winging it is a little more doable because you're there and you're going to be there for a good amount of time, and you have a base of operations, you have your, your home base. So winging it from that position, I think, is a little bit like doable. Not the best thing, but a little more doable. But now, we no longer have that house. And so now when we go to Greece, like, we have to make a plan. I mean, I'm the type of person to wing it. Like, I'll be like, yeah, we'll figure it out when we get there. But nobody around me is like that. So there's very much planning involved. And again, as you said, I don't know if my reasons for winging it are laziness or ego or whatever, but it's like one of those things where I just don't want to deal with it. And I'm just like, we're going to get to Greece. The air's going to be nice. The sun's going to be beautiful, and we'll figure it out. And yes, that's not the best way to do it. And I've been guilty of that. That's probably why nobody lets me make decisions anymore.
The truth comes out. But the thing is, like, even when you have that home base, that is a parameter that you get to work within. Mm-hmm. You are traveling within a structure, whether you know it or not. Like, you know that you have your home base in the village. You know that you have somewhere to stay. So you can choose to be flexible. And, a lot of Greek Americans do have that situation, like, where they have family that they're staying with. Like, they know that they don't, like, have to, get this hotel room for 4 nights and then make sure that they're on the ferry and then, make sure that they have this rental car. It is a different situation for somebody that's, never been to Greece before, and like a Greek heritage type of situation where you still have family there, but you are working within a structure. But I mean, your biggest things is, like, to plan any trip, it starts with, where am I coming from? And, what's my next commitment? Like, where do I need to be next? And so, like, where you're starting from, like, that's a huge up, and people that are traveling that have never been there before, they don't know where they're going to be exactly. They don't know what's around them. They don't know the opportunities. And, like, Foti, like what you were talking about, when you're coming from Montbassi, you looked at the ferry schedule. Like, I think that's top notch logistical winging it within a parameter situation, like, you use what you had available to you. And I mean, honestly, when did you go to Kitara? Last year?
Last year, yes.
I can't believe that it took you that long to go, honestly, because it's so close.
It's so close. And what it was is so years before, I kept seeing that over and over and just kept saying to myself, Kitara, all right. And then it would just fizzle away. And then the next year, same thing, until finally I just said, we got to try this place because it's been in the schedule, but we've never been to it. But yeah.
I do want to have a conversation one day about Kitara because yes, it's beautiful. There are a lot of reasons to love it, but there's even like what we touched on last week about the, mass tourism and the offshore billionaires. Kitara is combating that in like the best way, but that's a conversation for another day. But fully support the Kitara itinerary for anybody that it works for. But logistically speaking, it doesn't always work for people, which is
not to cut you off, but what did push me to go to Kythera is because in between the port of Napoli and Kythera is this little party island called Elafoniso. And Elafoniso has beautiful beaches, but it's been so oversaturated with a combination of Italian tourists, like it's like 60% Italians that are there, and then also the young Greek generation that are going to go party. So it used to be at one point a really serene place to chill and hang out. But then when it got so busy, I wasn't enjoying it. And I'm like, where else can we go that's close enough? And that's what pushed the Kythera, because it's only, I think, an hour plus from Elafoniso.
Oh, it's so easy. And like on the other side, if you're in Mani, there's a ferry that leaves from Githio, but the parameter to keep in mind is that ferry only leaves on Sundays and Wednesdays between Kythera. And so that's another thing about understanding what your opportunities are. Like if you want to get to Kythera faster, then you would drive around to Napoli and take that one that goes every day. But if you're already over there and it happens to be a Sunday or Wednesday, like those are the things that dictate decisions. And I see so many people like when they're trying to decide between islands, they're like, oh, well, I saw this, really pretty picture and, like I kind of cut them off and I'm like, you're not going to miss beautiful. You're just not like you're in Greece. It's almost impossible to miss beautiful. I was like, you've got to look at more of what's going on around you. Like, what are your options, And, in your situation, Foti, this is just like an excellent example. So I'm going to just keep going back to it. Like when you were deciding where to go, the most convenient thing to you was that little port of Napoli. Like you could drive back to Athens, you could catch another ferry into the Aegean, or you could take a flight somewhere, but do you want to? Like, what kind of effort do you want to put into that? Like, how much time do you have? Like, those are all things working behind the scenes that you didn't actually like really have to think about, but they were directing your decision. So the logistics, like people just want to ignore them because you're like, I saw this picture. It's beautiful. But the logistics are what's driving this entire decision. So going back to the idea of winging it and planning it, this is just a deeper level of the question. How do I choose my Greek islands? How do I know which Greek islands to choose? And they keep looking at the visual because we are visual people, but it's the logistics. It's the how you're getting there. How much time do you have? Because everything else will it'll form around that. And I think a lot of people miss that. And even, well-traveled Greek Americans like yourself who are always going to the same places, it can be a little bit of a conundrum as well. Like I had a conversation with a woman the other day, like they go to Greece every summer, but they're always going to her island and they're always going to her husband's village. And they recently decided, they're like, hey, what are we doing? Like we should be seeing more of this country. Like, let's go somewhere new. Let's commit to going somewhere new each time. And she called me to help, even though she's been so many times. It's just, it's not in her framework to see like what's available. And, like she was talking about how her husband is from Epirus. And she's like, I want to go to Meteora. And I was like, it's right there. It's right there. How have you never gone? Kind of like the Kitara. How have you never gone? It's right there. But if you don't know how easy it is, you miss it.
Yeah. I mean, some of this is right in front of us, as you mentioned. And I'm assuming too, Melissa, you've interacted with people who probably burn a lot of time that they could have used more, resourceful to have a better experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And I see this a lot. I had a guy that called me yesterday. It's not a client. He had just called to kind of get a base idea of how I could help him. And he already had a plan set in place. It was our old friend, that Athens, Mykonos, Santorini. And in like my head, my assistant is Gen Z. So I'm like learning all of this like Gen Z terminology. In Gen Z terms, I heard this and I'm like, I do not fuck with it. I'm not fucking with it. He was like, so anyways, let me go back to your point. He, had a couple nights in Athens. Then they were going to Mykonos. Then they were going to Santorini. Then they were going back to Athens for a night, like on her birthday. And I'm like, and then like back to the airport the next morning. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to blow this up right away. And I'm like, you need to either do Athens at the front or at the end because there's no reason to be like coming back and forth. You can fly right out to Mykonos. You can fly right out to Santorini. There's no, why are you doing that? And he didn't really like that. But I was like, did you call for help or did you call for me to tell you that you're right? Because I'm telling you that this will work.
Right.
But it's not great. Like you could do better. And it goes back to this winging it thing. Like, yes, it's going to be fine. Like you're going to love Greece. It's going to be a good trip, but you're missing it. And it's right at your fingertips. And it's so easy to fix if you just know, or like, and you could do this anywhere. Like you could be in Kansas City at a hotel and be like, God, like we really want some pizza. And, like, well, there's a Pizza Hut, that we can just call, but there's these other pizza restaurants around here, but they're like a 10-minute drive away. It's like, well, we really want to leave the hotel and go to this like pizza place? Like, I'm just like really hungry. I'm really like getting kind of hangry. And you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Just order Pizza Hut, when you could have just driven 10 minutes and had like this amazing pizza that like you still think about when you go home. Like, that is a missed opportunity because you were winging it, quote unquote, traveling uninformed, and you missed it. Like, that's a mistake, in my opinion. That is a mistake. That is a missed opportunity for a moment. And like, why do you travel? You travel for these moments, for these meals, for these, spontaneous, serendipitous moments, but they don't have to be so orchestrated. Like, you just need to be in the right place, and they're more likely to happen to you, but you need to understand what's going on around you. What do you guys think about that?
I think the most common reaction to a wing it experience is that once you get to this area, I think the biggest regrets we have is, I wish I had more time here. Because when you wing it and you discover it on the tail end, and then it's like your time is limited, the biggest regret I hear all the time is, I wish I had more time here. Because we winged it, we didn't know, we burned a lot of time.
And I do that as well. As somebody who has the time to make mistakes, we make a lot of mistakes, which in turn I use for my travelers. It's like, hey, we only stayed 3 nights there. We actually needed like 4 or 5. And I get the benefit of seeing my mistakes, reworking them. It's like, you do it better the second time around with, pretty much anything. But having just a base understanding of what's going on around you is huge. So like, for example, we were in Ithaki this summer. And again, like, we chose that same as you. It's like, we could drive back to Athens, but like, we only have 3 nights away from the kids. Like, we're on the west coast of the Peloponnese. Let's hop to the port of Kalini, go to Ithaki. Like, we've never been there. Again, like, that's our parameter. We have 3 nights. We're on the west coast of the Peloponnese. Ferry is most practical. Ithaki. Okay, Ithaki's our choice. Like, there's so many places that you could choose, but it comes down to logistics. And, like, when it comes down to where to stay, like, we knew that we had a car. That is a new parameter. Like, we can get around however we need to. And so we can be flexible with where we stay. That made a decision for us. We chose to stay in Vathi. It's central, we didn't have anything like planned when we got there. We knew we wanted to rent a boat one day. So that's like the first thing that we do, because it dictates the rest of our time. So we go to the boat rental place. Okay, well, we have this boat available this day, and we have this boat available that day. Okay, this day. So now that day is set, and now we can build out the rest of our days freely. But again, like, that's our parameter. So like, we know that we're going to have the boat the next day. So we want to go to beaches X, Y, and Z. Z is way up north, and it's actually easier to get to by boat. So we're going to go to X and Y today. That is a decision. That is a parameter. That's not winging it. That's having an understanding of what's possible and what's a good idea and what makes sense. And that makes our decision. And, like, say that we go to beach Y and we stumble upon a taverna that's there. Okay, we're kind of hungry. Like, we can eat there. We don't have dinner reservations because that's not a restriction that we want. That's not a parameter that we want. If we did have dinner reservations, that's the new parameter. That is not winging it. That is being intelligent and understanding of what's going on around you.
Well said.
And on that note, a lot of my travel horror stories have been based on trying to wing it. So I'm fully in agreement of having some sort of structure and parameter and knowledge, and not ever just saying we're going to wing it, because it could go pretty bad if you really don't know what's going on, or you don't really have any sort of parameter set up, right?
Right. On that note, Ari, so for us to avoid the wing it approach, we have Melissa, and I think Melissa, who breaks it down eloquently. Melissa, as far as like, we're just talking about a topic that probably resonates with so many visitors to Greece. how would you, what are some of the services that we can talk about that for our audience that are listening could actually consider?
Sure. Thanks for asking. No, I do appreciate you bringing that up because that is what I do. And I do plan and design really specific trips to Greece, but on the back end, I have a degree in marketing. I love human behavior. I love how humans make decisions and how they feel about this or that, or how they define themselves or what their standards are. Like that is what interests me more than like, look at all these beautiful places that you could go. No, like I want to know how you want to feel on this trip. Like what are you vacationing from, not for? Like, what is it? Like, do you need a break? Are you bored at home? Like, do you need some activity? Do you need to see something new? Do you need to doom scroll on your phone in like a pretty setting? Like, what is it? Like, that's what I'm more interested in is the human behavior. But, when it comes down to it, I will say for this season, I'm about to close my doors for any planning May through August. I think I'm going to take a couple more full service September, but that's a little bit up in the air to tell you the truth. Anyways, so if I'm doing a full service project, from beginning to end, it's, we're conceptualizing what kind of trip you want, what islands match. I'm laying out the logistics, making sure it feels good, making sure it flows, making sure you're not like packing and unpacking and packing and unpacking and moving and going and staying one night. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like, that's not a choice. Again, that's my parameter. Like, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that for you. On a lesser level, there's a couple services that are more quick and easy, especially for somebody like you guys who know Greece. You've been there, but maybe you're looking to explore it more. A couple good options for like a Greek American, would either be a strategy call, where that's just like an hour one-on-one where we really dig into a specific need. A lot of people use that hour to pick where they're going. Like we talk about the different opportunities. So like if you were in Monemvasia, like we would take a closer look at places that would make sense for you to go from there, or, depending on how much time you have or what your interests are. Like we take a look at everything that's available to you, look at the logistics involved, like what it means to actually make the effort to go there, what it means to actually be there, what it's going to feel like. So that's what a strategy call is for. Or like if you're like, hey, like we're for sure going to Kitara this year, but like we don't know where to stay. We don't know exactly what to do. Like we could also use that hour to dig into Kitara. Like we could look for hotels or Airbnbs together. Look at what your opportunities are as far as, like there's caves to hike to. There's a boat you could rent. Like I would probably stay in, Kapsali because it's, there's something going on, like getting you that information. On a deeper level, if again, let's use Kitara. Let's say like I'm thinking about Kitara and let's just pretend that you haven't
Sure.
gone. We would take Kitara, make sure like when that ferry is leaving from Neapoli, and making sure how to, book your tickets. And then once you get to Kitara, taking a closer look at, okay, so here are your main villages. Here are your main feature points of the island. Here are the companies that I use to book, a boat or something. Like there's not like a lot of planned activities on Kitara, which I like too. But, if you want to do like a cave tour, like you would have that contact information. Same way with like the best beaches, instead of you sitting on your phone Googling like best beaches of Kitara, like you have that right in front of you. Everything is Google pinned. It's all interactive. That's all in front of you in an app that you can access while you're there. All of your, your flight information, any bookings that you have, if you get your hotel booked and you're like, well, it'd be nice to know, like, what do we have here? Here are the best restaurants, around the corner from your hotel. Like back to that pizza example. Like, yes, this is 10 minutes away, but it's totally worth it. You should totally do that. Like having that information is part of an itinerary audit.
Wow, that's pretty intense. I like that.
Welcome to my brain.
Oh, this is all good stuff, good information. I mean, it makes me, think twice because, again, I have to get out of my kind of wing it attitude. My family members and circle most likely don't allow me to wing it because they know how I am. I'm gonna have them listen to this because it kind of hits home with how they are as planners and how they need a plan. And me being the polar opposite, how I need to learn more to kind of have some parameters set up so we don't have some of these horror stories that I've had before. So thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome. And I don't want to make you feel bad for winging it. I understand like the appeal because it feels like freedom and really like you can still wing it. I want you to wing it, Ari. But like within like this. So like if these are, your structured parts of your trip, like you can wing it all through here. Like this is all wingable because the best beaches, how much time you have here, that you want to do this at some point. If you have this, you can wing all this. So like, I don't want to take that away from you because I think that every trip should have that. Like you need that white space. It needs to be within here.
So basically moderation. If you are a wing it type of person or you want to wing it, just don't fully wing it, but wing it within a certain parameter where you feel safe that whatever decision you make is still going to be fun, is still going to be productive for you. And that makes, I was just going to say, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because we don't want to over plan either. Like that is a different kind of vacation hell that I would not want to be a part of either.
Yeah, the two extremes I think have their own pros and cons. But anything extreme has many cons. So I like the fact that have a little bit of planning, have a little bit of structure, have a little bit of parameter, and then within those, have your space to wing it or to make a spontaneous decision or whatnot based on your experience and what you're looking at, where you are and what you see. So yeah, this is very good information. Very good information.
You're a new man, Ari. I think you just wrapped it up for us. I think that was like the cherry on top. Ari is a changed man, everybody.
My wife will appreciate your input on me being a changed man.
No, you know what? You can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, okay? If you were a planner and she were a planner, it would.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. Just be you, okay? Just be you. But because my husband is the same way. Like I drag his ass all over the place. He's like, "Why'd you make me drive here?" And I was like, "Because it's amazing."
Again, the first episode I learned a lot. This marks the second episode. And again, I feel like this podcast is made for me just to become a better traveler myself. Hopefully everybody out there who's watching and listening can also take away these nuggets of wisdom from Melissa. So yeah, thanks, Melissa. This was great.
You're welcome. I really enjoy talking to you guys. Like I said, as Greek Americans who know what the heck I'm talking about when I'm talking about all of these different places, like it's just a different conversation. So I appreciate you guys being my co-hosts, and these conversations are great. Like I love getting to say these things out loud. So yeah, thanks for another week of fun, and thanks Ari for throwing yourself under the bus a little bit, and Foti, your experience with Kitira. Yeah, I mean, what are we gonna throw Ari under the bus next week for? Like, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm sure there's plenty.
I can call your wife. Can I get your wife's number?
I'll start creating a list for us. The bus list.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, so I will see you guys next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast today. We have more for you next time, so come back where we are talking more about Greece always, and not the boring shit you don't care about. So come back.
All right. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Foti. We'll see you all.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.